So thank you all for the poll. So we have a mixed level of participants. Good. So I'll end this poll. I have 25 responses out of 37 participants. That's 60% turnout. Good. So this is what we have. Majority of them aerospace sector, few from railways. I know railway is now a very emerging sector. Good. Okay, so we all know this basics about ISO. What is ISO is? It's International Organization for Standardization who creates standards. There are multiple standard bodies available. National standard bodies, international standard bodies. Most of you know we have our national standard body, BIS, Bureau of Indian Standard. And there are a lot of international standard bodies. We are well familiar with ISO. There are a few more international standard bodies like IEC is there, ITU is there, right? And there are a lot of other industry standard bodies are there. Have you came across any industry standard bodies? I request participant, you can interact with me through chat box. Have you came across any industry standards? There are standard bodies who create standards for their industry. For example, let's take electronics industry. We have IPC, right? IAF is again, they're not making any standard. They made documents, mandatory documents, guidelines for the conformity assessment, particularly the certification bodies, right? Yeah, AMS. AMS is yes, SAE we could say, right? Yeah, SAE creates a lot of industry standards. Even there are product specific, industry specific standard bodies are there. Maybe welding, if you are familiar with welding, you may came across AWS, right? DIN is again national standard body. So there are multiple standard bodies exist. And majority of them are product standard. Few of them are process standards. We all know the difference between what is product standard and what is a process standard. And one of the world most famous process standard is this quality management system, ISO 9001. And this is made by a technical committee, ISO TC 176. There are participants from national standard bodies who creates the standard. It is very generic, applicable to all. So nothing new too on this, right? We all well aware about this. What is the need? Why there is a need for sector specific standards? Why not ISO 9000 is sufficient? There are multiple industries we have. Oil gas industry, medical device industry, energy industry. ISO 9000 is a very generic standard. It doesn't address industry specific issues. Each industry is unique, right? So whereas ISO 9000 is generic in nature, of course, it can be applied to any industry, any sector. What could be the reason why industry is moving towards sector specific standards? There are a lot of sector specific standards we came across. I think this particular training, we are focusing only on this 3 sector. Maybe if time permits, we will try to do a comparison session, some other standards too. But this time I'll try to connect with mobility industry. When you say mobility industry, these 3 sectors, right? Automotive, rail industry, and aerospace industry. So AS 9100 series of standard is applicable to mainly aviation, space, and defense industry. And railway sector have a recent QMS, rail QMS, that is ISO TS 22163. And automotive, well-known IATF 16949. So I have picked this 3 standard and try to compare this and what is unique, what is not common in this standard. That's the whole purpose of this session. So good, almost whoever registered out of 100 participants, we got 50, almost good turnout. Okay, so this mobility industry, this industry is purely driven by OEM. We call them as OEM in automotive sector. Whereas in rail sector and aviation sector, we call them as integrators, right? It's purely driven by customers. Why do you think industries are going for this certification? What could be the reason? Why as the organization, we have adopted all the standards? What do you think? What could be the reason? Why I need to implement all this quality management system? Yeah, because it's a OEM requirement, right? Yes, they mandate this. Yeah, some organization, they wanted to standardize their processes. Okay. If you look at majority of the organization, they're practicing this management system to fulfill their customer contractual requirements. We organization needs to go for multiple certification. So this is purely driven by customers and customer contractual requirement. And sometimes organization voluntarily practice this as part of their strategic decision. And this IATF 16949, it's made by an organization called as IATF, International Automotive Task Force. And IRIS, if you look at, you might have wondered why I have written two different wordings, ISO TS22163 and IRIS certification. We will explain this a lot when we walk through this session. And of course, AS 9100 is developed. The 9100 standard itself developed by IAQG. It was published by different publishers. If SAE publishes it, they call it as AS 9100. So let's focus on this three mobility standards. I think majority of you are certified for the standard, right? Any one of this, or even some organization may certified for more than one standard. Even I work with some companies who are certified for all three, not only all three, more than this, multiple standards they are certified. Okay, let's just look at this. What is the requirement? What is the title of these standards? If you look at the title, we came to know the key differences, what is not common in these three standards. Let's focus this IATF 16949. This is applicable for automotive production and service part related organizations. When you say automotive production and service parts, any automotive parts goes into a vehicle or any parts which is required by your automotive OEM, right? For those organizations, this standard is applicable. IRIS, you could see a big change in the title itself. It is a business management system. Railway application QMS, and they call it as business management system requirement for rail organization. How to apply ISO 9001 in rail sector for those, this particular standard is applicable. And 9100, people who are into aviation, space and defense sector, for them it is. So this is basically a QMS standards, and every industry added their own specific requirement and they came up with this. And we all know what common in these standards, right? All management system standard is based on plan, do, check, act, PDCA cycle. And everybody follows the 10 clause structure. Of course, continual improvement is one of the key requirements in all these three standards. There are 7 quality management principles. Majority of us well aware about that. Based on this principle, the standard has been developed. There is no change in this. But when it's come to the requirements, what IATF 16949 does is, they added only a supplemental requirement within it. They have not included ISO 9001 text. They only referred it. Whereas in ISO TS22163, they put the requirements in a different way, within the box, outside the box. So ISO 9000 requirements are addressed in a different way. And ISO TS22163, rail industry specific, rail QMS specific requirements are addressed in a different way. Same way in AS 9100. So the requirement of ISO 9001, they have captured the entire requirement. Whatever the requirement in ISO 9001, they mentioned within the box. Whatever you see in outside the box in ISO TS 22163, those are all rail industry specific requirements. Like we could say now, out of the box thinking. And AS 9100, they use how to differentiate the requirement of ISO 9001 and IAQG requirement. They use bold italic fonts. If you go through AS 9100 standards, it has two type of fonts. One is normal font, what you could see. Other one is bold italic. Whatever you could see in bold italic in 9100, those are all IAQG specific requirement. So let's understand the goal. What is the goal of these three standards? We know these standards are for which industry. So let's try to understand what would be the goal. What do you think the goal of the standard? I'm running a small poll here. Whatever comes to your mind. Let's try to hear from the participants through this poll. What would be the goal of this three standard? What do you think? Just make an attempt. When IATF wrote the standard, what would be their goal? When ISO Technical Committee wrote this RAIL QMS, Business Management System, what could be their goal or scope? What they thought? And IAQG writing this 9100, what could be their intent? I'm pretty sure it's hard to type rather than choose the best answer. But let's try to understand. Have we understood this, the goal of the standard? So when you practice these standards, as a practitioner, we have to be very clear and certain about the goal. Have we achieved this goal? We might be certified for the standard. We are practicing the standard for many years. We might have faced a lot of audits. We might have conducted a lot of internal audits. Have we achieved this goal? What is that exact goal is? Let's hear from at least 20% of the participant. Yes, thank you. I could multiple answers are there. Fine. Anyway, if you look at the standard itself clearly tells you what is the goal. Of course, there are common goals in all these standard, but there are some goal which is unique, right? Which is unique to this industry, which is completely unique. What is common? Just now we have seen in the previous slide, right? PDC is common, continual improvement is common, the structure class 10 class structure is common, all our management system based on process approach, those are all common. Okay, I'm going to end this poll now. Thank you. So majority of the said IATF goal is like zero defect, okay, customer satisfactions, OTD, right? So let's look at the standard, what it says. This is what the standard makers have written within the standard, the goal of or the intent of the standard. The IATF intent is pretty much clear. Defect prevention. They're focusing more on defect prevention and reduction of variation and waste in the supply chain. See, this is one of the key focus where the entire IATF 16949 standard is focusing on reducing the variation, reducing the waste in the supply chain, which means there are a lot of tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, right? The entire supply chain, they wanted to reduce this and they wanted to adopt defect prevention across the supply chain of automotive sector. That's the goal of IATF 16949. Have we achieved this? Maybe we have achieved defect prevention. We might have practicing defect prevention. How about our suppliers? You might have reduced the variation. You might have reduced the waste. This is not the waste minimization. This is not what we discussed in other management system like environmental management system, waste minimization. This waste is like more related to rework rejections, right? This is the goal of IATF 16949. Supply chain, it's applicable to you as a supplier. Of course, it's applicable to across your supply chain. There is one key, a difference we could see in IATF 16949. When it's come to rail quality management system, here also they captured the same goal, defect prevention and defect reduction. And one more important aspect in rail quality management system is they are intending to achieve sustaining product quality. The key word here is, of course, quality, delivering quality product is an implied requirement, right? We have to give it. There is no option in it. But they wanted to achieve here sustaining product quality. So how we can interpret this word sustaining product quality? I could see very few people from the railway industries are attending this seminar, but more and more, a lot of companies are now moving towards railway business because a lot of development happened around us. Now recently, today also the Vande Bharat train has launched in southern region and a lot of metro projects are coming up. I'm getting a lot of inquiries related to rail quality management system to people who are already into automotive. They're now trying to entering into rail business as well as aerospace business. That is the very purpose we have chosen this topic. There are a lot of transition happened now within the industry. They wanted to diversify or they wanted to consider this as a different business vertical. But rail industry works in a different way. When you say sustaining product quality, what do you think? How do we interpret this term sustaining, including its safety aspects, right? So to achieve this quality, zero defect is fine, but zero defect at where? Zero defect at customer end, zero defect at the supplier end. The quality is still, I have achieved this quality performance, whatever the PPM target the customer is given to you, but I am sustaining it continuously I'm following, continuously I'm complying it or not. And it's considering safety aspects, rail industry, safety, consistency, right? Yes, exactly. That's the one of the goal of this ISO TS22163. And AS 9100, of course, quality product is there, but look at this. This is quite interesting requirement. Safety and reliability. These two words, very unique to compare the other two standards, right? Safety, here also safety considered when it's come to rail quality management system. So they consider it's part of sustaining product quality, including its safety aspects. But when it's come to 9100, they're focusing more on reliability and safety. Yeah, everywhere the word safety, what we are connecting is product safety. It's nothing to do with the occupational health and safety of the employees. For that purpose, we have a different standard, right? ISO 45001, focusing only on that. But the here intent is, in quality management system, the intent of AS 9100 is product safety and reliability. And of course, on-time delivery. OTD is quite serious. No other standard putting this in as a requirement on-time delivery. AS 9100, various places they are addressing this term OTD, on-time delivery. So this is what the intent. Now, if you look at the poll, what we did, I think majority of you have covered this intent, except few interpretational issues. Otherwise, people are well understood this goal, nothing new here, right? So let's take one more simple poll. Maybe this is the last poll. I'm not going to continually doing this poll. Let's try to address this. Who has developed this standard? All these three standards. Because a lot of stakeholders are involved, right, in developing the standard. And tomorrow, if they want to amend the standard, they want to add something, they want to revise the standard, who has to do this? Who has to perform this activity? If you want to give any feedback about the standard, as a practitioner, I want this, I need some clarification, I need to change this, I need to modify this, whom to contact? Okay, I'm going to end this poll. So you could see we are very clear. IATF is developed the standard, IATF 16949. Here we have this 9100 is made by an organization called as IAQG, International Aerospace Quality Group. When it's come to ISO TS 22163, the standard ISO standard is developed by ISO itself, right? Whereas UNIFI and IRQP are the organization which is monitoring, which is launching the IRIS certification as a program. So that's what you need to understand on this. So let's discuss about this now. So these are the organizations who made the standard. When it's come to ISO TS 22163, the standard is developed by ISO, whereas the IRIS certification program, IRIS certification conformity assessment 2020, is managed by the UNIFI. So let's discuss this one by one. We all know what is IATF. There are a lot of OEMs across the globe and national supplier organizations. They are part of this IATF. They develop the standard for their supply chain. Maybe I like to ask this question to the participants. Do you think any Indian automakers is part of this IATF? Indian OEM? We have a lot of OEM in our country, right? Maruti is there, Mahindra. Which OEM do you think is part of this IATF? Indian OEM. Yes, Tata, right? Through Jaguar. They are not directly connected. Other than this, no one we could say, right? Leyland, I'm not sure. Maybe to my knowledge, I don't think Leyland is part of IATF. Anyway, so this OEM, so they are part of this IATF. Remember, when you are practicing IATF 16949, you just need not to follow only the IATF requirement. There are sanctioned interpretations. IATF keep on revising or keep on updating, or they wanted to give correct interpretation. because a lot of things are happening around us in automotive industry, right? The chip shortage is affecting a lot. Pandemic has affected a lot. Now the whole industry is in a transition. So the existing IATF standard, which was released in 2016, they need a lot of amendments, right? So instead of amending the standard, what they are doing is they are updating some of the corrections, some of the changes, the requirements, they put through sanction interpretations. Those are all available in IATF website. As a practitioner, you can go and check that. Always you can refer the latest sanction interpretations. Now come to ISO TS 2163. As I mentioned, the standard as such, the standard is developed, published by ISO technical committee. Whereas the IRIS certification program, the IRIS certification based on ISO TS 2163 is given by, managed by UNIFI. And who are all in UNIFI? There are rail operators, system integrators, and the equipment manufacturers. These are all the stakeholders in this entire IRIS certification program. When it's come to 9100, IAQG has 3 chapters: American Aerospace Quality Group, Europe Aerospace Quality Group, Asia Pacific Aerospace Quality Group. Even we have Indian Aerospace Quality Group. They are part of this Asia Pacific Aerospace Quality Group. You can name any big aviation, space, defense industry across the globe. They are part of this. Till 2016, there is not even one Indian organization who is member. First company is HAL, and slowly other players are there. Bharat Forge, Tata, Ankit, SLN, a lot of players are. So they are participating in the standard development process through INAQG and APAQG. Sometimes people get confusion. Some client, they call it as AS 9100, somebody call it as EN 9100. What is the difference? See, the standard 9100 is developed by the IAQG. They are not publishing, they are not marketing it. So it was published, marketed by these other standard makers. SAE is, even IAQG itself part of SAE. So they release it in American version, English version, right? Aerospace standard, AS. Even AS 9100 itself a trademark to SAE. Otherwise, the requirements are the same. So technically equivalent, right? All the standards are. So what is not common? Yes, we all well know this, right? Even Mr. Bikash also clearly mentioned that. The safety, let's take the same word safety. It has different meaning, right? The safety of a road vehicle, safety of a vehicle which is in railroad, the safety of an aircraft in midair. So it has different impact. This picture usually will explain when we are practicing a rail quality management system. This will show you or give you a representation, a pictorial representation of the additional requirement, which is not common. If you look at this green color, whatever you see in this, those are all ISO 9001 QMS requirement, which is commonly you could see in various management systems. But whatever you see in the red color, those are all ISO TS 22163 mandatory additional requirements. And there are, of course, some should optional requirements are there, which are all very unique to rail industry. But just look at this picture. Tell me how much percentage we have additional requirement. If you want to compare similar type of picture with the IATF 16949 versus rail QMS. If you want to make a similar picture of IATF 16949 versus AS 9100, you could see 20 to 30% of additional unique requirement in all these 3 standards. Few requirements are very unique, which is particular, which is only applicable to those sectors. Let's focus on those areas. Before that, let's try to hear from you. For an automotive part, let's take a car or a truck. How many parts goes into it? Can you guess some numbers? If we ask the same question to rail sector, how many parts goes into a coach? How many parts goes into an engine? Then we can clearly understand what is not common in this three industry, right? Okay, 10,000 in automotive, okay. I tell you, in a narrow body aircraft, we could see around 6 million parts an aircraft. As engine alone, maybe have 20,000 components goes into it, aircraft engine alone. So good that Redmi 9, someone draws some good picture, nice picture. Look at this. What would be the launch time from concept to launch? What do you think? Let's take a automotive product. You want to launch a new vehicle. What would be the concept to launch time? This is again one unique, which is not common in this three sector, which is completely unique. Today, Vande Bharat train has been launched between Chennai to Mysuru. How long it will take? This is one of the shortest time span. A particular rail was concept to launch. Now, this is one of the shortest. What would be the shortest time in the history of Indian rail sector? The train 18 is like 2018, right? The vehicle, we could see every Diwali, we could see new model, new car launched, right? How about aircraft? What would be the aircraft? Concept to launch time. Pretty huge, right? Maybe 10 years, 15 years. So that is another important feature we need to consider when you are practicing these three systems. And this is quite crucial question we need to ask. What is the lifetime of this product? A two-wheeler, four-wheeler. Now we have a vehicle scrappage policy, right? Going to come in our country, right? It says 15 years, right? For road vehicle. What would be the lifetime of a train? I remember since my childhood, the train which goes to my native is the same coach, the same train. How about an aircraft? Of course, it depends on the flying hours, but how can you can convert this into this? What do you think? I tell you, there are aircrafts which is used in Second World War. Still, those are all in usage. Then you can assume it. So this is another quite important thing we need to consider. I'd like to show one small news article which was published. Look at this. Honeywell owns the aircraft flight test. They are using it for testing purpose now anyhow. It is 40-year-old aircraft. Still they are using it. So this is another critical, unique feature we need to consider. So when you are practicing all this management system as a practitioner, what we have to do? When organization wanted to enter into these industries, what they have to think? We need to have mindset change. You cannot apply the same logics here, right? In automotive, we have volumes, mass production, whereas in railways, batch productions. Even in aircraft and defense, it's mainly limited productions. So the tools and techniques what we are using in this industry, we cannot apply horizontally. That is why a lot of industry specific standards has emerged. So who can go for these standards? We are very clear about this: automotive, IATF 169, who are into design and development activity, production activity, assembly activity, installation activity, right? Service of the automotive parts, not the vehicle. Some of the parts like heat treatment, value addition you do on this, even including embedded softwares. Those industry can go for IATF 16949. Then ISO TS 22163, it's only applicable to rolling stock and signaling and infrastructure companies who are all involved in manufacturing and our design and our maintenance activities. For those sectors, this is applicable. IATF, again, who are into design, production, assembly of ASD, right? Those sector, ASD, we call them as aviation, space and defense industry, ASD sector. So rail business, right? ISO TS 22160 is only applicable to these type of products. If you are dealing these products with railway sector, rolling stocks and signaling equipments, then you are eligible for this ISO TS 22163. This includes the entire rolling stocks, even signaling equipments, electronics equipments, components. The rail has multiple rolling stocks, right? So they come up with their legislation. This is a typically Europe standard EN 15380-2. They have their own codifications. So if your product fits into this category, if you're already delivering your products to railway industry, then you are eligible for IRIS. Few years back, a number of companies certified for IRIS in India is very few. Now it goes beyond 120. When it's come to 9100, we are almost going to hit 1,000 numbers. As on today, around 990 companies are certified for 9100 series of standard. So 9100 has a lot of certification series. 9100 is applicable to organizations who are into design, manufacturing. And there is one more industry, maintenance, repair, overhauling industry of this aviation, space and defense products. For them, it is 9110. And there are dealers and distributors in this industry. For them, it is 9120. And there is one more supplementary standard. It's not a standalone standard, AS 9115. People who are making deliverable software, right? For them, it is. So it depends on the role what you play in the ASD supply chain. The standards are applicable to you. So when you say supply chain, there are multiple tiers in these industries, right? Let's understand the supply chain of these sectors. Again, we could see here something unique, which is not in common. Yeah, AS 13100 is not a certifiable standard. You cannot get certificate. It's just like a self-certification, right? You can follow this, or your customers comes and audit you. So what I have listed is only a certifiable standards. So let's look at this supply chain. So we have OEM and tier 1 parts, tier 2, tier 3, right? That's how all industry supply chain works. Now look at aero industry supply chain. Now they are facing a lot of disruptions. Case, right? You heard about case in automotive sector. People are discussing about this case. C means what? Connected vehicles, IoT, vehicle can talk each others. A, autonomous vehicles, driverless car. S is shared vehicles like Ola, Uber. E, of course, electric vehicle, right? So this is now disrupting the entire supply chain. The many item which is in the bill of material of a car, now it's going to be find other place, right? They have to transit themselves. Of course, the rail industry, they have a different set of supply chain again. We have integrators, operators, rail operators. They plays a major role here. And of course, the equipment manufacturers, rolling stock, signaling, component manufacturers. When it's come to aerospace sector, here we have again integrators. We call them as prime manufacturers who makes aircraft assembly. Can you name some big aircraft assembly organization? OEM, or in simple terms, aircraft OEMs. Yeah, Airbus, Boeing, we all know. Other than that, have you heard about or came across any other? HAL, yes. Tata, yes, Tata is going to be the first Indian organization who is going to integrate. Again, it's a JV only, Tata Airbus. There are engine, yes, engine makers are there. Engine OEMs, Safran, Rolls-Royce, Pratt. A lot of people are. Bombardier, yes, Bombardier is again another. A lot of players are there. But look at this, the other supply chain here, aero industry. Of course, we have a tier 1 suppliers who delivers systems, and there are tier 2 suppliers who deliver subsystems, and there are tier 3 who delivers components. But look at this other 2 sector. This is quite interesting supply chain. Designing and modeling. There are many organizations who provides design and engineering services, engineering and research services. Who supports the entire aero industry supply chain? Like Infosys, TCS, Wipro, HCL, all these people are into this particular business. And MRO, this is completely a different industry, maintenance, repair, overhauling. There are a huge number of, because this industry is doubling a lot. The whole aerospace industry is doubling every year. So we need to understand the difference in this, the lifetime of the product, the number of parts goes into the product, and how the supply chain is, how big the supply chain is, complexity within the supply chain, because they are in different demography, they are in different culture. The millions of product goes into an aircraft, and millions of products come from different countries. How we can expect the same quality? Everyone has to understand the goal. Everyone has to understand the safety requirement, reliability requirement. Right? So product safety is quite key. That's what initially Mr. Bikash have mentioned. We cannot use the same terminology. That's why if you look at some, you can sometimes say this is common in all the standard. All 3 standard talks about product safety. If you go through IATF, there is a requirement for product safety. If you go to IRIS standard, there is a requirement for product safety. Again, AS has a requirement for product safety, but it is not common. It is different. Let me ask this question. What is the safest transport mode? We have a lot of transport mode within us, right? What would be the safest transport mode? Yes, Supreet, even if you go by walk, a dog can come and bite you, right? Just go and check the data in corporation and municipality. How many dog bite cases are there? This is what the statistics says. We practitioners, we engineers believe in data, right? This is what data shows. Bullock cart. No, that is to transport passenger. Is it allowed legally? Not sure. Okay, so let's look at this particular requirement. The requirement is there in every standard, every majority of the sector specific standard. Let's try to interpret this. IATF 16949 has a requirement for product safety. Rail industry also having a requirement for product safety. Not like this. Of course, aerospace industry has a requirement for product safety. But what exactly the intent is? Let's look at this. This is IATF requirement. This is a definition for product safety in IATF. What they say? Just look at this definition. When you read this definition, what comes to your mind? Tell me. Product safety. There's a standards relating to design and manufacturing of product to ensure they do not represent harm or hazard to the customer. This is the definition given by IATF 16949. By reading this definition, what do you understand? Tell me, what is the product safety in automotive sector? How can we apply this product safety? I'm pretty sure majority of you are certified for IATF 16949. You have a process for product safety. How do we interpret this term? Yes, that is the new requirement, ISO 26262 functional safety standard. But this requirement is in IATF 16949. But the majority of the people thought, or the boundary of ISO 26262 is more on functional safety, on systems, on integrations, embedded softwares, electrical, electronics, right? Let's assume I am manufacturing a component. I am running a Ford shop. I am machining components. I'm making heat treatment. I'm doing casting. For me, what is product safety then? For systems, subsystems, yes, functional safety standards are there. But I'm practicing IATF. So while designing any product, while manufacturing any product, we have to check, is there any standards available? Product standards. I have to ensure those standards are integrated into my quality management system. That's what they put it as a requirement. Organization must have a documented process to manage product safety related products and product safety related manufacturing processes. And it has a lot of additional requirements. The key focus area here is the product what you are manufacturing. You have to ensure that it is not going to harm the customer or hazard to the customer. That's the interpretation. The primary focus here is on standards. What are the standards related to design and manufacturing? The same product safety requirement in railway industry. They have a definition here. They call it as freedom from unacceptable risk of harm. Look at this. Here also they are focusing on harm, but they use one word, unacceptable risk of harm. They have a separate requirement for this, RAMs and LCC, whereas in RAM, yes means for safety. Yes, the automotive definition, customer is the passenger, right? It is not your internal customer. If you look at these requirements, standards, whatever the standards are there in automotive sector, standard to design a component, a standard for the manufacturing of product, this more is relevant to the passengers. Or sometimes your customers come up with their own contractual requirement for product safety that of course we need to adhere. But those are also considering the passenger safety. So rail sector, even Europeans have some regulations for this safety. Even in India also we have a lot of regulations for rail safety. Now come to AS 9100. They are also having a different definition for product safety. They say the state in which a product is able to perform its designed, intended purpose without causing unacceptable risk of harm. If you look at the close linkage between the definition of rail industry product safety and the definition of aerospace product safety. So both are addressing unacceptable risk of harm. But here they considered harm to the persons or even damage to the property. So they considered damage to the property here. And what is the requirement? What are we supposed to do here? We should have a process for product safety. You have to assure product safety throughout the life cycle. That is another critical requirement here. So considering this requirement, even though we assume it is common in all this standard, but it is not. So each needs a different approach. Each needs a different methodology. So based on the what product you do, is it a component or a system or subsystem? Accordingly, we need to have an adequate approach. But in aerospace industry, it's highly regulated, this product safety and all. That's why we have airworthiness, flyworthy, airworthy. There are a lot of regulations are here. Same way in railways also. In automotive, I don't see the strong regulation. Now, I'll put this simple example. Now, we are seeing every month there is one incident. Every week there is one incident of electric vehicle catches fire, right? Do you think where it fits in your IATF 16949? Do you call it as a non-conformity, customer complaint, or product safety issue? Where you want to fit this? So why your existing documented process for product safety is not addressing this? Right? So that is the way we have to look at this thing. Even now, Indian Railways come up with Kavach, a new emerging technology that is also more relevant to this product safety. So all these three standards are focusing on safety. Even if you look at the goal of AS 9100, the primary focus is on safety. So they are respecting entire life cycle, entire product life cycle, from the concept to cash. Right? So this is one I would like to touch in this session. Will be each topic is a different, right? Each has a different requirements. The next what I would like to touch is leadership. Of course, all these three standards has a common requirement, class 5 leadership, right? Yeah, Mr. Bikash says it's happening during operation. Okay, that is why it is happening. Why your design FMEA is not capturing this, right? That's why IATF made it very clear. If you look at IATF standard, that is the beauty of IATF standard. What they say, they address this in class 4 itself. They're not even addressed in design. So look at this. There is a, if you go through this specific requirement, they're clearly addressing it. Okay. So leadership, what do you think, what is not common in these three standards with respect to leadership? Top management, commitment or demonstration. So let's have a look here. Of course, IATF 1694 and have a unique requirement now. Corporate responsibility, correct? As part of the new requirement, this is pretty new requirement. Previous standard ISOTS 1694 and doesn't have this. Now IATF has this because the OEM purposefully wanted to have this. Corporate responsibility talks about anti-bribery, employee code of conduct, ethics, escalation, whistleblowing, right? That is one unique you could see. Why? Because a lot of unethical practices happening in every sector. It's happening, but automotive, we all know this Volkswagen emission fraud, right? Because some people claim mileages, emission standards. So a lot of things are happening around us. Yes, corruption, correct? That is there in every sector, but industry wanted to address this. Supply chain, aero industry, automotive industry, when they make this standard, they wanted to address that within the standard itself. So while implementing, we need to consider this. When it's come to rail QMS, this is quite interesting requirement. Remember the title of our ISO TS 22163 It has a business management system within it, right? I'll put this way. How many of our quality management system address the budgeting process, accounting process? We have finance process in our organization. How many of us have included the finance in our scope of quality management system? Do you think is it part of quality management system, finance and accounts, budgeting? I always get mixed reactions on this particular question. So without budget, without fund, without controlling the budgets, how we can run a management system? How we can run a business management system? Yes, Mr. Bikash, counterfeit. That's what aerospace says. I'm going to touch that in the next slide for aerospace. So rail quality management system is focusing on budget planning, budget approval, and budget control along with your business plan. Of course, business plan is there common in all, which is not common in other standard. What will happen if your organization went bankrupt? What will happen to the rail projects? What happened to the entire project? So organizations should have a process, right? IRIS wanted this. And of course, there is a new requirement in IRIS. I cannot see this requirement in any other standard, any other management system standard. They introduced a concept called as process review. We all do management review, correct? Every management system requires you to, top management has to conduct management review to verify the adequacy, effectiveness, suitability and all, right? But this rail quality management system purposefully asks us to do a process review. Top management must conduct process review. What do you mean process review? How this is different from management review? The process review have different set of agenda. Remember, when we establish a quality management system, what frequent we will review our QMS? I'll put this simple way. How frequent you will review your procedures? Whenever there is a change, of course, we will amend. But what is there any defined frequency every year? Is it defined somewhere in your system? Yes, process review includes a lot of agenda. KPI is one of the agenda. Not only KPI review here, a lot of other factors are there. So this is one additional requirement IRIS wanted, this process review. Each process review, it's not a key process only, critical process only. The standard says all your QMS process. There is separate class number 9.4. They are addressing this process review. Organization shall conduct process review. At least annually you have to review. Right? That's one new thing leadership has to perform in rail QMS. Right? The mandatory process. Yes, rails has a different list of mandatory processes the organization must have. For example, budgeting process. There is one process we should have. We cannot say I don't have budgeting process in my QMS. So rail quality management system mandates few processes. Clear? Right. Then of course 9100. Yeah, that's what Mr. Bikash mentioned. Counterfeit, ethical behavior, ethical practices. That's very important in aviation, space and defense industry. And MR, of course, the role of MR. Do you have any MR in your organization? Your IATF 16949 asks for MR. The standard asks for a management representative, tell me. You are having, but standard is having this as a requirement. Even rail quality management system also doesn't mandate MR. But AS mandated. You must have a person within your organization as a management representative. But leadership has to empower them. The MR, whoever you have nominated, appointed as a MR in your AS 9100, MR must have freedom and unrestricted access with the top management to discuss about your QMS issues. That empowerment 9100 expecting from us. Yes, Mr. Bikash, the process review, what IRIS mandated at least annually you have to do process review. They have a different set of agenda. Apart from your management review agenda, whatever we do in as per class number 9.3, this is in addition to that, we have to perform a process review. That is what it is. Okay, so these are the some of the thing. One more important, which is not common in other standard is OTD. What is the role of top management in OTD? What do you think? What would be the connection between on-time delivery performance and leadership commitment with this? What would be the connection? This week, I cannot see in other standard this particular requirement. And IAQG put this in bold italic, IAQG specific requirement, the role of top management in OTD. Every organization monitors OTD, but if your OTD is not achieved, what type of action your top management will initiate? Of course, process owner will initiate in every other management system. But here, IAQG mandates that top management ensure that OTD are measured and monitored. If you are not able to achieve this OTD, management has to ensure some action has been taken. Yes, providing resource, supply chain management, exactly. Merger, acquisitions, right? That's key. That's quite a serious problem in aviation, space and defense industry. Let's assume 1 day delay in aircraft delivery, a second delay in satellite launch. What will happen? What is the impact? Right? Then come to operational planning and control. Here, there are a lot of unique requirement in all these three standard. I'm not going to discuss all in this 2 hours webinar. Let's touch very few critical important factors. Of course, IATF come up with core tools, right? Automotive core tools, APQP, PPAP, FMEA, MSA, SPC. You know, FMEA is again VD and AAG, right? Other than that, CQI standards are there. Those are all customer specific. Customer mandates this CQI, then you can practice. Otherwise, it's optional for you. A standard itself asks you to do TPM as per their own terms. And control of externally provided processes, product, services, right? Supply chain control. So this is there in IATF, a specific explicit requirement. In IATF, we cannot completely say 8.3 is not applicable, right? You are only allowed to do, say, product design, unless if you are a build to print company, right? You can claim this as a non-applicable class. Whereas rail industry, based on the scope, either you are make to stop company or assemble to order company or make to order company, engineering to order company, based on that, you can claim whatever the class applicable to you, whatever the class not applicable. There is a freedom given in rail QMS. There is no restriction. You cannot exclude entire 8.3. You can exclude entire 8.3 if you are a build to print company. That provision is there in rail QMS. This is quite a unique requirement in rail QMS. We cannot see this type of requirement in other standards. Project management, that is pretty huge in rail QMS. Tender management, there is also a new unique requirement, which is not common in other standard. Configuration, there is a requirement in aerospace industry also, configuration management. Control of externally provided product, process and services. Here, there are some unique requirement in rail business. And this RAMS LCC, this is completely unique. There is a mandatory requirement in rail quality management system. You have to do this. Reliability, availability, maintainability, safety, and LCC life cycle cost. In addition to that, IRQB, they come up with a lot of guidelines. You can use that. Yeah, someone did last slide. Okay. Yes, please. Any questions here? Can I proceed? Yeah, thank you. Right. This is a completely unique requirement in project management. It has a lot of features. You should have a process for project management, depends on the role what you play. Build to print company or design organization, design, manufacture, installation company, right? Based on your scope, you have to deploy this project management. This is similar to PMBOK, right? Anyone have here PMP certified professionals? So they can able to connect these requirements. So it talks about project integration management, scope management, time management, cost management, project quality management, HR management, communications management, project risk and opportunity management, project procurement management. So we should have a process to address all this in railway QMS. This is one unique requirements. And now industries are facing a lot of issues. People who are in automotive now, they are entering into rail business. They thought it's simple as APQP, but it is not. It goes beyond that. And of course, 9100 has a lot of again unique requirement. Here we have different APQP. Automotive industry have AAG published APQP or VDA or customer driven APQP. But whereas in aerospace sector, there is a standard AS 9145. Most of the customer in aviation, space, defense industry, now they flow down this requirement. To demonstrate your operational planning and control, you should have a project management or program management that should be in accordance with 9145. This is not in the standard, but it is a customer specific requirement. Customer QMS requirement playing very important role in aerospace quality management system. When you make your quality management system, you have to ensure customer QMS requirements are embedded within it. Remember in IATF, we have a CSR, right? Customer specific QMS requirement, even sometimes regulatory QMS requirement. All those things we need to incorporate. When you're doing business with the defense, MOD, Ministry of Defense Industry in India, they have their own DDP mass, IMTAR. Those needs to be added. That's again one unique requirement here. And operational risk management. This is quite a new requirement, which is not there in other standard. Typically, we have a risk management process as part of even your ISO 9001. We have risk-based thinking approach, right? That is there, but here they want about operational risk. When you say operational risk, what do you mean by operational risk? Let's put this way. You have a process for business development. Now, tell me what would be the operational risk in business development? What type of approach we have in business development with respect to operational risk? Mr. Hanumantrao says, which is stringent. See, there is no question of stringent or lenient standards, sir, because each standard is unique, right? It is developed for that particular intent. So it depends on the organizational maturity level, how complex to implement it. We work with multiple level of industries, MSMEs, corporates. Even sometimes corporates are facing problem implementing rail quality management system, whereas MSMEs are easily implemented. So it depends on the product, culture. There are various factors involved. See, in always we could say like there is no low quality, high quality. Always we can focus on low impact or high impact. That's the mindset change we should have when you're dealing business with the aerospace and rail sector. In automotive, you could say low risk, high risk, or low quality, high quality. Whereas in aerospace and railways, this mindset change is required. Clear? Right. So now come to this, the same question, operational risk management. Now let's assume business development as a process. Yeah, someone said OTD is the risk we need to consider. What else? What else do you think? What would be the operational risk management in business development? Yes, see, what AS 9100 expects, it doesn't dictate you have to consider geopolitics and all. What it say, when you get a contract, when you're doing contract review, right? In contract review, what is the risk in that particular contract? What is the risk in that particular customer? Do we have any process to address this? That's what we call it as operational risk management, right? Yeah. Supplier specific risks. What is risk in that particular supplier for that particular product, right? Operational risk, we could put it in a different way. AS 9100 given one note in class number 8.1.1. What that note says is, whatever the risk based thinking, what you are doing it in class number 6.1.1 of 6.1 of your ISO 9001, those are all risk related to your quality management system, right? Risk to your QMS. Whereas in operational risk management, it is risk to the particular operation, particular customer, particular contract, particular product, particular supplier, right? That's the difference. Yes, currency conversions, this Russia-Ukraine war, various aspects we could consider. Yeah, Iris is the diagram will scare you, whatever the diagram I have shown, a lot of red color and green color and blue color. Iris is quite a big standard, I could say. Yes. Yes, you are correct, Mr. Mandras. Depends on the product what you deal, right? If you are designing, manufacturing a aerospace product, then obviously AS91 is one of the complex, it has its complex requirement to claim, demonstrate design and development. Okay, so operational risk management is quite unique, which is not in other standard as a explicit requirement. And this one, configuration management. I could see this configuration management requirement in rail quality management system also, but in AS, it has its own place. What do you mean by configuration management? What is configuration? The word we are using at various places, right? Configuration. So I'll try to put this in one diagram. Before that, let's have a look. There are different type of tools. Like we have a core tools in automotive, right? APQP, PPAP, FMEA, MSA, SPC, all the tools are similar tools are used in aerospace, but not the automotive tools. They have a different standard here. Particularly aero engine industry have developed this. Now non-aero engine industry, which in aerospace, within aero industry also referring some of the tools here, some of the standards here. So this diagram will give you the picture, the big picture. AS 9145 APQP phases, the 5 phases. And what are the elements for APQP and aerospace PPAP? This is different from automotive APQP and PPAP. So some customer mandates this, then it will become a unique requirement to you. So there is a separate standard available here, AS 9145. And aero engine industry come up with their own reference manual for this now. Let's come back to this configuration management requirements. Whatever the configuration you have received from your customer for RFQ, the same configuration only you have quoted, right? Whatever the quotation you have submitted, the same configuration only the contract is awarded, right? Whatever the contract you have received from your customer, the same configuration you have reviewed it. Of course, some organization may do design, some organization may not do design. But anyway, whatever the contract you have received, for the same configuration, you have developed your processes, your engineering methods and all. And whatever the configuration, the methods have developed, the same has flowed down to production, and they made a proto or sample, they made the first article inspections. And the same configuration needs to deliver to a customer, and the same configuration needs to be documented, and the same configuration you have to maintain. So everywhere the configuration should be same. Now just look back your system in your AS9100. Can you able to assure this? I am using same configuration from RFQ till delivery. What type of process you have to assure this? Do you have any process in place? Remember, this is different from document version control. We're not talking about document version control. Document version control is we are doing it as part of 7.5 class, right? Control of documents, documented information. This is different. This is product configuration. There is a separate standard ISO 10007, right? Which talks about configuration management. It has 5 phases: configuration management planning, configuration identification, configuration changes, configuration status accounting, then configuration audit. So it has its own additional requirement that needs to be implemented within your AS9100. This is quite a unique requirement, which is not used in automotive sector, this type of configuration management. Remember, there are millions of parts goes into an aircraft. So they have to maintain configuration at all the level, all the system level, subsystem level, component level, right? That's one unique requirement. Okay, here what I'll do is maybe if you have any specific questions before moving to further, you can please unmute your mic and ask any questions or put this in the chat window. So far what we discussed. I'll go back to this operational control related unique requirement, so that maybe I will cover this all, maybe before that, up to this configuration, project management, tender management. Any specific questions anyone has?
Sir, here I have a question. Here. Hello.
Please go ahead.
This project management is, I think, is applicable to in aerospace also. Generally, how it is different. Any project, if you want to execute without project management process, I cannot fulfill the deliverables, that project requirement.
Yeah, that's a quite good question. See, AS9100 doesn't mandate. If you read 9100 standard under 8.1, they put under note. This process are also called as program management or project management. If you read the requirement, as appropriate to the organization, as appropriate to the product, as appropriate to the customer, organization must have a planned structured approach to manage this. So they doesn't mandated a detailed project management, whereas rail quality management system mandated these PMBOK related project management approach. It talks about integration, scope, HR, quality, communication, procurement, a lot of requirements.
What is that mean, sir? Actually, you've taken very excellent topic. What is not common? But if you see, if I want to establish a good process effectiveness or efficiency to meet the customer requirement effectively with the less cost or good cost, ultimately this each standard has some best practice. Now, if you see the IRIS is having the project management process, that can be taken as a best practice. We can implement in any industry, aerospace or other. I seen in business process, many process management processes I have seen good in IRIS. But what I mean say, so many best practices, each standard we can take, and as our nation, if the top management is leadership is committed, we can implement. No, that is my question. Actually,
yes. The problem is now the industry practicing the current standard itself, they are facing a lot of struggle, a lot of maturity is needed. If you have a well matured system, of course you adopt the best practice, nothing will stop you. The very purpose of what is not common we need to understand is now people are doing diversified business. If you come up with the automotive mindset and doing business with rail industry, or if you're doing business with the same mindset with the aerospace industry, at long term we have to consider, right? A lot of risks are there. You cannot apply the same controls what we practice there. So that's why understand what is not common. Then you decide which you want to practice it here and there.
Noted. Thank you.
Any other?
Can you elaborate on the configuration management? What is the scope
Yeah.
which will cover in the configuration management? Like I was saying, what is the scope? It is like a based on the product or something. I
Yeah.
think configuration management standard also there, but it is also telling generic. Any software is there? Otherwise, how
Yes, yes.
this
A lot
process
of
should be?
softwares are used by aerospace and defense industry to manage this configuration. But usually those softwares are used by the primes, system level, subsystem level, component level people. I don't see people who are into life cycle support. Now they use configuration management software, PLM, mainly PLM softwares. Okay, there is one question in chat window. Is it possible to integrate ISO? Yes, you can integrate all these standards, sir. Yes, I have faced some certification body audits where they integrated all these three, IATF, IRIS, and AS. So there is no objection from certifications. As such, certification rule doesn't object it. It's up to the organization, right? How you demonstrate, how detailed you demonstrate. Okay, so let's move to the next subject. Next topic is counterfeit part. That is quite unique, which is not explicitly written in other standard. So what is counterfeit part? Aviation, space, defense industry is very serious about this. An imitation, unauthorized copy, or duplicate product, knowingly, purposefully misrepresented as a genuine part. That is called as counterfeit part. In common man language, a fake item, duplicate part. The standard is very serious about this. You have to prevent the counterfeit part. So how to prevent the counterfeit part? So there are different methodologies are there, but AS 9100 addresses this. If you look at this particular picture, majority of the counterfeit parts are originated at broker level, distributor level. And electronics industry is suffering a lot. If you look at this white boxes, now up to board assembly level, contract manufacturer level, a lot of risks our industry is facing. But first of all, why counterfeit parts are made? What could be the reason? Why people are making fake items? Yes. See, you have to think this way. If you are a company, if you are buying a counterfeit part because of cost factor, then please don't come to aerospace business. Clear? Obsolete. Correct. The product become obsolete. There is no product available in the market. So this is you have to think this two way. As a company, if you are procuring a counterfeit part, knowingly means you are not fit for this business. As simple it is. Right? But when you are buying a product, you trust that supplier. The supplier have delivered a counterfeit part. Do you think your customer buys a counterfeit product from you? Knowingly? Never, right? So it's always comes from the supply chain. During my consulting training project, I will ask this question. Do you make any counterfeit part? Nobody will say yes, right? Nobody will say yes. Then why, how counterfeit part exist in the industry then? Nobody makes the counterfeit part. No, customer may want alternate. There is a difference between counterfeit and look at the definition of counterfeit. Knowingly misrepresented. So this is more all unethical behaviors, right? So as a supplier, look at this yellow columns. As a supplier, we are identifying the counterfeit parts here as part of your detection, incoming inspection, at various test procedures. If any counterfeit part has gone beyond this particular stage, then everybody's life is at stake. So to address this, standard 9100 has a unique requirement in 8.1.4, prevention of counterfeit part. There are different standards how to deal with this counterfeit part. Those are all guidelines. AS 5553 is there only to handle electronics item, how to prevent counterfeit part. Counterfeit parts are not only in electronics, even mechanical item, various product it exists. So 9100 aerospace industry is pretty serious about this. If you came to know, or if your customer is came to know you are delivered a counterfeit part knowingly, intentionally, then you are done. You'll be banned in this business. So this needs to be addressed. And a lot more requirements. FOD control, this is quite serious requirement in aerospace and defense industry. Foreign object debris or foreign object damage. Any alien product which has potential to enter into your product, that become a foreign object debris. The debris, if you're not controlled, if you're not prevented, that create a damage. So this is what FOD is. For this, there is again separate standard guidelines available, AS 9146, that can be used here.
Sir, here I have a question.
Yes, please.
My question is there, example, if you see the FOD or this counterfeit, example, I am an industry, I may be supplying to the automotive industry, I may be supplying to the railway industry, same process, I'm supplying to the aerospace. In that case, if I'm not meeting the FOD requirement or counterfeit part, is none of the other industry also will not accept, not only in the aerospace, in the railway industry also, anything. The fake part, it is not a reliable part, nobody will accept. It is applicable to in each standard. That is my understanding. Am I right?
It is applicable to every industry, but IAQG wanted this in the management system. Other industry may wanted, maybe those are other industry considered it's an implied requirement. Other industry have not stated this as a requirement, whereas aerospace industry stated this. They put this in the shell requirement. They put this in the standard. So they wanted to have a process for this.
Yeah.
Because they suffered a lot. They suffered a lot. A lot of human lives have lost because of this fake item. Right?
I understand, sir, you are told. But my input is there. If I am not able to meet these requirements, compulsory I will meet the risk. I will get the customer complaint. It may be railway industry, it may be other industries. Am I right? Yes. When if you take the counter part, the standard may be telling in this other standard. But if I am doing, I may be doing the risk. I may be exposing to that risk level, quality risk. Am I right?
Yes, sir. Remember the goal of our 9100, safety and reliability, correct?
Yeah.
So this bold italic, whatever the bold italic unique requirement you see in 9100, those are all connected with that.
Okay.
Clear? Right, sir. So FOD is again new terms in aerospace industry. Other industry, that's what all the requirement you can horizontally deploy irrespective of the industry, but the industry doesn't consider, or the industry doesn't give weightage to those requirements. So they have a different focus. Maybe the more incidents, more feedback goes to the standard makers, they will consider these requirements also, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Human factors. Yes, this is one unique requirement which is used in aerospace and defense industry. 9100 standard has this human factor. It's a very big topic. How human factors are influencing, how human factors causes human error, how this human error is exist in our QMS, how your QMS is going to address this. Even aero engine industry have some more requirement on this. NADCAP. Again, NADCAP is not a 9100 requirement. This is mainly comes to customer specific requirement. NADCAP is special process approval. And of course, inspection stamp control, there is another unique requirement. Like this, there are plenty of unique requirements or exist in 9100 series. And some more requirement in rail sector, planning for outsourcing or work transfer. Work transfer, that is in AS 9100 also. Okay, so there is one question. If customer requires ASTM, which is not available, but for that we can use the equivalent standard. Again, it depends on the which industry. So you have to negotiate with your customer. See, I'll tell you one example. One of the supplier who is delivering a product to an aerospace company, the customers are in UK. So the customer clearly mentioned in their engineering specification, they have to follow the sampling standard as per ASTM standard or some ANSI standard. ANSI standard, that's what they refer, right? ANSI standard. But what this supplier has did is they adopted Indian standard, IS 2500, right? And this is causes a serious problem for them. They won't accept it. So you have to negotiate with your customer, talk to the customer. We have alternate or equivalent standard. Is it acceptable, right? It's between agreement between you and your customer. Even though there is equivalent available, you have to talk to your customer, because customer has its own reason why they have specified this particular standard, because we are not the designer, right? Clear? Okay. This is one another important new requirement, knowledge management. In Rail QMS business management system mandated this knowledge management. See, there is a requirement, organizational knowledge in ISO 9001 itself, but this particular Rail QMS, they talks about knowledge. If you look at this Rail QMS, the word knowledge appears 30 times within the stand. So they wanted a detailed organizational knowledge process. You should have a process how you are going to manage return of experience. When you handle customer complaints, even the return of experience from the internal audits. When you handle customer complaints, when you audit your suppliers. So what are the lessons you learned that should be addressed within the railway quality management system? This is one unique requirement. They explicitly wanted this knowledge management. And competency management, of course, every standard having competency requirement, but again, Rail QMS is very particular and peculiar about this competency requirement. What is the competency required for a person involving in tender management? Project management is altogether new topic, right? What is the competency needed for that? And they are using one word, fracas, right? Failure report, corrective action system, similar to your AD approach, but fracas is different approach used in railway industry. So those competencies Rail QMS is expecting from us. And of course, AS, again, a unique requirement, one special requirement, critical item, key characteristics is altogether different topics. And one unique requirement in AS is customer QMS. Customer QMS has a lot of weightage. Plenty of weightage there. So the customer even literally dictate you what to do. If you got a non-conformity, what to do, how to deal with that non-conformity. You are not allowed to do a rework without customer approval, even some products. How many years you have to retain the record for that part? What type of sampling plan I need to use? Everything literally addressed by your customer QMS requirement. So when you deal business with the aviation, space and defense industry, it is your responsibility to talk to your customer, obtain, is there any customer specific requirement? That only you have to include in your QMS. Yeah, there is one query here. Yeah, it depends. It varies customer to customer, right? Even some flight safety part, they ask you to retain for 40 years, right? So those are some of the uniqueness. I'm not sure 40 years I will exist or the supplier will exist, right? But the product will exist in the market. And one more unique in IRIS certification. Let's talk about auditing. What is unique in auditing concepts? We know we have faced a lot of management system audit, right? 9,000 audit, 14,000 audit, IATF audit, a lot of audits you might have faced. But there are some unique methodology used in IRIS audit. They have a knockout questions. These are the 10 knockout questions. During stage and audit, certification auditor will review this. Yeah, Renukesh asked a question, what is the difference between customer QMS requirement and customer contractual requirement? See, customer contractual requirements are broad level. It talks about product, even QMS, insurance, delivery, risk, liability, right? That's a legal agreement between you and your customer. The contractual agreement may refer QMS. QMS requirement is more related to how to run your quality management system, how to implement your AS 9100, right? There are more some additional requirement. 9100 itself is additional requirement, but that is not sufficient. Every customer come up with their own QMS requirement. Clear? So let's look at this one unique methodology in audit. IRIS audit, a certification body auditor will they do stage 1 audit. Now they will check this knockout questions. If any one question, if you are not able to answer, if you are not addressing this requirement in your quality management system, you will not eligible to go the next level, which means stage 2 and all. In addition to that, they have 3 important assessment pillars. In IRIS audit, they use this tool, audit tool. One is enablers evaluation. Other one is process evaluation performance and customer perception performance. Based on this, only your certification decision will be taken. Enablers evaluation is a little bit new. It is like a maturity model. Each requirement, each railway QMS requirement, shall requirement, should requirement, right? Those are all listed here. If you are addressing shall requirement, it is called as defined. If you are meeting the next additional requirement, it is called as qualified. And if you are having the best practice, should everything, that is called as optimized requirement. Based on this, your certification body auditor will perform an audit. In addition to that, there is a performance evaluation. This is similar to your AS 9100 peer. We will see that in the next slide. And one more requirement is customer perceptions. There is a unique question in railway business about stakeholder analysis, customer perceptions. Based on this, it is not just enough to fulfill ISO 2S22163. There is one more standard, which means IRIS conformity assessment 2020, which is made by UNIFI. You have to fulfill that also. Then only you are eligible for IRIS certification. And this is one unique requirement in peer. We call it as peer process effectiveness assessment report. IATF audit is similar. Whatever there in IATF 16949 requirement, you could follow that. As I mentioned, there is a sanction interpretation available, right? You go to IATF website, there you can freely download those sanction interpretation. Those changes also you need to incorporate. In addition to that, IATF has a rule book, IATF audit rules, that you can consider. That is not a shall requirement, but you can consider that. Clear? So this is another new unique requirement used in AS 9100. You call it as peer process effectiveness assessment report. You need to demonstrate that your process are realized, as well as you need to demonstrate that the results are achieved, which means you have to prove that whatever the documented process you have, that is fully realized. And whatever the KPI you have, your process, that is also achieved. So then it is called as conformity, which means intent is there, you have implemented it, and it is effective. Let's assume intent is there, I have fully addressed it, I am fully implemented also, but I have not achieved my KPI. That KPI targets are not met, but I have taken some corrective action. So still you can claim yourself as a conformity. The rest of the requirement will be leads to a non-conforming situation. So this is one unique methodology used in audit. Okay, so now the forum is open for Q&A. For the benefit of participants, we have different topics already. We have recorded some of the videos which is available in our YouTube channel. You can just go to YouTube, search Nucleus Consultant. So you can get this recorded session on different topic, FOD, even this APQP for aerospace, counterfeit part, product safety, IRIS requirement, multiple requirements. Small videos are available, even long videos are available. So you can use it. Even recently we published employee packet guide for IATF standard and aerospace standard, which is available in our LinkedIn page. If you're interested, you can just go and download it. It's freely available. So now the forum is open for Q&A. Any questions, please? You can always unmute your mic and speak. Or put your query in the chat window. This PPT will be, again, this session is recorded, will be uploaded in our YouTube channel. You can watch it from there. Yes, Rohit, go to our YouTube channel. You can see one video on prevention of counterfeit part. Okay, let's do a small poll. What do you think about this webinar? Is it really helped you in any way? You spent almost 1 hour 45 minutes. Do you think is it really worth? Or any questions, please? Usually we get a lot of inquiries about training. Generally, we don't train individuals. We train the team working in the organization. But rarely we'll conduct open house training. So as an individual, you can participate. You can keep watch our LinkedIn page where we can get updates. So good that almost the 40 participants are averagely attending this session. So within this short time, we can able to just address, there are a lot of requirement which is not in common. But industry needs to understand that when you are doing business with other sector, try to understand the context. That's what all quality management system initially requires us to do, right? 4.1, understanding the organization and its context. So what is the context of the industry? Your products may suit your existing portfolio, your existing capability can suit the other industry, fine, but understand the industry. That's quite important. That's why the industry come up with a sector specific standard, right? Any questions, please?
Can you talk on something like configuration management in aerospace, sir? If you have some information further.
Yeah,
Like,
see, that's
what is the
one
scope in
slide
the
which I have shown. That's the like the life cycle, entire life cycle. You have to ensure the configuration management is practiced. There are standards. As I mentioned, ISO 10007 is general standard, but there is a military standard which is used particularly in configuration management. Recently, we conducted a half-a-day training on only configuration management to aerospace client.
this is standard, sir? Mil standard?
I don't recall that exact name,
Okay, no,
but I'll text you.
I will take offline. No issues.
Yeah, please. There are some questions. Okay, so thank you all.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.